it takes those experimenting. It takes trying. It's like, well, you're going to spend less time with your kids. Well, yes, kids are a priority, but you can have a parent who spends all their time with your kids who is angry and resentful, and that's a bad experience for the kids.
Absolutely.
Everyone is different. You can have a parent who spends, what grandma might say is terrible, a couple hours a day with the kids, and have an outrageously good relationship with your children. Like nothing compares to that. So judging that the way you think something should be done or the way you did something in the past and forcing that onto someone else is a very unrealistic expectation.
Unleash your potential with MetaMindstream, disrupting possibilities. Dive into the fusion of positive neuroscience and business strategies with Anne Scotland and Dr. Lyman Montgomery. Break free from limiting beliefs, expand extraordinary lives, and boost business profitability.
Welcome back. I'm so happy to have you with us here today. Welcome to the MetaMindstream. And if you haven't been with us before, we talk about disrupting what's possible. So that doesn't mean that something isn't possible. Disrupting what's possible means what you think is possible. That's what we're disrupting, right, Dr. Montgomery?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Let's get out of the old paradigm and shift to a new one.
That's so fabulous. And we've been having so much fun already. So this supports the concept behind our entire business, which is the Focus Meta Mindset mission, which is profitability simplified. So we talk about business and then we talk about life and bringing these neuroscience strategies into actionable business strategies. Actionable. Did I say actionable? I don't know what I said.
Yes, you did. Actionable.
Actionable business strategy.
Gotta take
action. Yes. And then also real life application in society, in philosophy, in religion, in family, in interpersonal relationships. And so that's always in our part 2. So stick around to get their whole dose today. This is really a candid and provocative conversation. This is why we're doing this. How do you go meta? How do you go to the next level? And we've been having so much fun. And I think today, Lyman, we are going to talk a lot about meta mindset business strategy and how to have a strategic meta mindset. But before that, I want to invite you all, please do like and subscribe on whatever platform you're watching or listening to today, and share this with a friend. We'd love to get you involved as part of our Meta Mindset family, and join us each week to have a great time streaming right here. So tell us a little bit, Lyman, what you were thinking about. How is meta mindset important for strategic planning?
Absolutely. Most of the time people think about strategic planning. They think about, what are just my strategic goals? And they kind of break that up into what they call SMART goals, right? Is it strategic? They look at, is it measurable? Who's accountable for different things? Is it time bound, right? But why would you start thinking about a focus strategic meta mindset, which is all about how does it feel when I do XYZ? For example, if I'm looking at a strategy for planning growth in my organization, does it feel natural? Or does it feel like I'm trying to force something to happen? The more natural something feels, the easier it becomes. The easier you are to explain something, the easier it is for people to grasp it. If it's complex, if it's convoluted, if it's hard to implement, then people say, ooh, too hard. And they're going to resist it. So what a strategic meta mindset thinking when it comes to your strategic planning is all about, does it feel intuitively natural when we go through the process?
Intuitively natural. And that is so interesting, because I love how you set me up there without even knowing it, because one of the action steps, the actionable steps I was going to mention around this strategic planning, and we all know the structured business side and the spreadsheets, and we know how that piece fits in. But there are other parts that we often neglect.
Mm-hmm.
And part of that is, and I'm not going to go on about this today, but I can't resist, is your business meditation. I don't know, you
Yes.
heard me. I said meditation.
Yes.
Your
I
business
love it.
meditation, right? So before you all say like, okay, that's it, I'm out of here. I'm not talking about frou-frou. I'm not talking about visualizing. I am talking about visualizing. Let me be clear real quick, but I'm not talking about pseudo quote manifesting. Now, I'm not going to even go there or make a discussion about whether that works, doesn't work. I do think there's a lot of different things that we don't understand about the universe, but let's go here. So meditation is letting your mind and your
Mhm.
imagination really reach to what's possible. And we won't go into
Absolutely.
that today, but you can even do that in a semi-meditation experience, in a meditation mindset. And we teach that in what many of our things and many of our projects and
Absolutely.
lifestyle
Absolutely.
workshops.
And it works. If you take, for example, if you do a traditional strategic plan, which has the 4 quadrants, you look at your strength, your weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. Well, let's take, for example, the two that most people struggle with, which are what are my weaknesses and what are threats? So, a lot of times we think a weakness is something that we're not good at. A weakness
Mhm.
also be something that you're very good at and you get complacent in it. So when you apply meditation to it, is am I operating out of complacency, conformity, compliance, or am I operating at the highest version and willing to go beyond? Because a lot of times we say to ourselves, well, my strength is XYZ, and we never grow from there. We get complacent, we get comfortable, and then you look at threats. Well, we think threats are bad. No, threats are actually good because it keeps us aware and it points out areas that we need to improve. So a lot of times people say, well, I never talk about my weaknesses. I never talk about threats. I only talk about opportunities and I only talk about my strength. But when you begin to look at your weaknesses and say, listen, if I'm weak, that means I have the potential to get stronger. If something is a threat, then I have an opportunity to turn that threat into a triumph.
It can, and overcoming these can actually become
Overcoming, yes.
exciting. It can be part of it's all about what we're always saying with focused meta mindset, which is making business fun, making your profitability a more positive experience. And that is so much a part of it. You can even play with the objections, you can play with the
Yes.
obstacles. You can go into a mindset of envisioning those solutions. You can sit around a table and do it with a group, but you can even do it before you get to the group. So if you want to
Yes.
go meta with this, and it doesn't take massive amounts of time. It takes no tools, but just a few moments of being still and rediscovering what we think is possible, which is why we say meta mind stream, disrupting what's possible.
What's possible. Absolutely. That reminds me of in one of our conversations, I think it was one of our episodes, I was sharing about a client of ours that was a hairdresser and she wanted to go to law school. Well, let's break that down strategic. So she had a plan. Her plan was to go back to school. She was going to start at a community college, take some paralegal courses, right? So her strength was she had a great memory. Her strength was she was a hard worker. Her weakness was she thought her weakness was her age. She had been out of school for a long time. The opportunity was, hey, I can do this. It would open up new possibilities of income, take care of her family, and more importantly, live her lifelong dream. The threat was she didn't have money, didn't have this. Well, she thought her strength was her family. She found out that the most resistance that she faced was not from foes, but was from family members, and that told her, listen, you're too old. What about those kids? You're going to give up your good job. You're a manager at a hair salon, and you're going to go back to school with a bunch of 20-year-olds. You will not make it. Get over your pipe dream. And it would have crushed her. We met, and I said, listen, there's 2 types of people in the world. Those with a can't, C-A-N-T mentality, and those with a can, C-A-N. Now, can't stands for people who always look at cost, they look at authority, they look at need, and they look at time. They always say it costs too much. Oh, I can't afford that. They look at authority. Well, what makes you special? Who puts you in authority? You can't make that decision. You got to consider your kids. Then they always want to look at need. Well, you need to take care of your family right now. Forget about you. You're a mom. And then they look at time. Well, girl, this ain't the right time. But a can mentality in says this. All right, how can I make it convenient for me? Found out, you know what? She can do online courses. So she can still work at the salon and at night do online, convenient. Then she looked at alignment. Our favorite word, alignment. She began to look at, is this in alignment with what I value as a person? And the answer was yes. Then she looked at, does it feel natural?
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, Lyman, when I took that paralegal course, it was if I was meant to be in that class. She got straight A's, got her associate degree. Then she went on into a 4-year school, studied pre-law, and graduated. I was there at graduation, graduated with honors. And then she went on, accepted into law school. Why? Because she refused to have a CANT, C-A-N-T, and she moved into a meta mindset of C-A-N. Was it convenience? No, but it was convenience in the sense that she found a solution. Going to a traditional class was inconvenience. Being able to do it online was convenient. It was in line with what she believed, her values, her principles, and her goals. And the last one, it felt natural. And that's what Meta's about, right, Ann? Does it feel
absolutely natural? Does it feel natural? Because we are always pushing against what is uncomfortable. And sometimes we think that, let's give you an example. Sometimes when you're feeling lazy, you're pushing against what is uncomfortable because you don't feel like getting off the couch and getting busy, right? This is just a tiny example. But sometimes pushing off that, oh, get up, you better get busy, you better get up, you get up busy, is more miserable than like, you know what, I'm going to get off the couch and go wash the dishes. We're going to use really basic illustrations here. And the same in those conversations with people that they need to happen, but you don't want to have them with an employee, with a boss, with a customer. And you're like, you create so much suffering around it. Now, timing is important. Mm-hmm. That's part of being strategic. But a lot of times it's literally our emotions. We avoid pain and move toward pleasure to such a point it becomes painful.
Absolutely. 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 I mean, how many people have made decisions with that CANT mentality, going back to that CANT mentality, where they always look at the cost. Oh, it costs too much. So you lower the cost. It must not be worth anything if it's that cheap. you get to the authority. Well, I can't make that decision. I got to ask my wife. I got to ask my partner. I got to ask cousin Juju. I got to ask Uncle Ted that lost 5 businesses and never been successful. Okay? Because we don't believe in ourselves to make that decision. So we're looking for something externally to make that decision. Then we always, well, you know what? Well, I really don't see the need in that. Somebody gets a house. Well, that house is too big. Friend of mine bought a lovely 4,500 square foot home. Guess what the dad said? It's too much house for the two of y'all. All you needed wasn't a condo. And rather than celebrating the win, they didn't go into debt. They saved for 10 years to be able to have a nice down payment. The payment got a good interest rate. And yet, rather than family celebrating them, and you know what? Let's do something, Ann. I want to know, those that are listening, I want to know if your family members have been more of a threat and an obstacle than support. Because I want to tell you, it is rare when everyone in your family is on board with you. I'm telling you, when we launched our business, the people say, well, wait a minute, how y'all going to do that? Y'all not even in the same state, the same city, but yet we're successful.
No, you're absolutely true. It's absolutely true. And I think we're going to talk a little bit more about that even later in the program. In fact, I'm excited to, in our lifestyle segment, just talk a little bit more about the naysayers.
Yes.
When we come back, we're going to take a quick commercial break. And when we come back, we are going to talk just a tiny bit more about those actionable steps for your business, how to use a meta mindset to take your business to the next level, increase your bottom line. So stay tuned and we'll be right back.
Unleash the power of focused meta mindset lunch and learn sessions. Sharpen problem-solving skills, spark innovation, foster collaboration, and build adaptability and resilience. Elevate your team's success and profits. Discover more at www.focusmetamindset.com.
Welcome back to Meta Mindstream, and thank you so much for joining us here today. We are going to continue right now with our really fun conversation about meta mindset and how that helps you in strategic planning around your business. Please, as always, like and subscribe. Shoot us a question or on any of the platforms you are watching or listening today, or shoot us an email, which is info@focusmetamindset.com. And if we can answer today, we will. And if we can't, we'll try to answer on a subsequent episode. So Lyman, back to strategic planning and what a meta mindset difference makes.
Absolutely. Let's say, for example, if you are a C-suite executive and part of your responsibility is strategic planning. And before you take care of the tactical stuff of actually doing SWOT analysis, looking at quantitative analysis and all that other stuff that is part of strategic planning, let's talk a little bit about the strategic mindset around strategic planning and who should be involved in that conversation. Too often, that conversation is top down rather than looking in through your organization and saying, am I getting buy-in from those who are actually implemented? Let's say you have an organization of 100 people, right? Do you have representation, not just from management, from, let's say, the actual boots on the ground? Do they also have a role in the strategic planning process? Are you doing 360 evaluations? Are you looking at what works, what doesn't work? So when you take a more
and then I think
inclusive role, yes.
You there, Lyman?
Yes.
Okay, we're back. The sound went out for a second. It might have just been on my end. So the last thing you said was 360 evaluation.
Yeah, you do a 360 evaluation. And what the key is to have an inclusive process when it comes to strategic planning, not just top down, where the executive sitting room say, we're going to do this. And everyone else are like little soldiers carried out. But really it should be a collaborative process where you're asking even the janitor, the receptionist, the volunteers, the interns, what makes us great? What do you like about this organization? What can we do better in various areas, various departments? Why do you keep showing up? If you had a magic wand, what are one or two things that you would say, abracadabra, hocus pocus, make it happen? What would those two or three things be? When you do that, everyone gets buy-in. Now you move into vision casting. And that's where leadership begins to talk about what the organization will look like a year from now, 18 months from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, if everyone gets buy-in. So it's not about leadership saying, I'm the leader, I'm going to set the course. No, real leaders say, I've talked to everyone, a representative within my organization, and you do that either through surveys or you do that through consensus, focus groups, et cetera, but you want to get that input, because what I found out is the ones that is closest to the problem are the ones that comes up with the best solution, because they deal with it every day. If you're sitting in the C-suite corner office overlooking the ocean, when the last time you actually took out the trash? When is the last time, Mr. CEO, Miss CEO, that you actually sat in the employee lunchroom and had a conversation? Do you even know their names? This is the difference going beyond. This is meta strategic planning, where you get out of the boardroom and you go down to the lunchroom and the locker room and you have conversation with those that do the work.
Absolutely. That makes such a big difference. It is meta. And that is a lot about ego, isn't it? Meta is about, what
ego stands for?
What is that?
Ego stands for edging greatness out.
Excellent. I love that. Edging greatness out.
Because you think you are the sum total of it all. So when someone has a better idea, you edge it out. A greater idea, you edge it out, because you want to be the supreme ruler of the universe. It's edging greatness
Absolutely.
out.
Well, and that's part of it, right? Because you can do strategic planning because you're close to certain pieces of the problem when you're in
Yes.
a high leadership position. Um, but also, we tend to neglect what I call the unheard.
Ooh,
Some of
yes.
Just because someone is cleaning the bathroom or vacuuming the halls doesn't mean that they're not highly intelligent. We don't know anything about them. We assume that education distinguishes. Some of the most incredible inventions in history have been made by people who were like
Absolutely.
working with their hands.
Absolutely.
So asking
Absolutely.
everyone. The other thing about being meta is involvement. So laying down your ego and involving everyone else around you. That kind of strategic planning. Do you know the kind of loyalty you generate when you involve everyone at every level of your business in contributing to ideas that will lead to the decisions for the
Yeah.
company?
I know we
This
got
is
a
an
break.
absolutely
I know
priceless
we got a
thing.
break coming up in about 15 seconds, but let me say this right before the break. Do you realize the most important people in any organization are the receptionists and the janitors? Because they see, they hear, they know everything. And like you said, they're often overlooked.
So true. So right. So much to contribute. And this is like what makes going meta also makes us more of a family in business, a global family, social family. Meta really breaks down a lot of the barriers, these artificial things of what we think is or isn't possible. When we be right back, we're going to talk a little more. We're going to jump into meta lifestyle, one of our favorite segments.
Woo!
So stick around and we'll be right back.
Unleash the power of strategic neuroscience with Focused Meta Mindset Inc. Boost your decision-making, sales, sustainable growth, and customer engagement. Scan the QR code now for an exclusive consultation. Elevate your profitability with Focused Meta Mindset Inc.
And welcome back to Meta Mindstream. And thank you for being with us here today with Dr. Lyman Montgomery and myself, Ann Scotland. We have talked in our business segment about strategic planning today and how do you go meta in your strategic planning in your business. Whatever size business that is, whether you are a one-man show, Lyman's client who went from a hairdresser to an attorney, or whether you are, just starting your own business. But let's jump over into lifestyle for just a couple minutes here and talk about, we have said how you live strategically in your business. But let's go back to what we mentioned earlier, which was some of those naysayers, the naysayers
Yes.
who tell you it's not possible. Why do they do that, Lyman?
I think part of it is protection. They love us. They don't want to see us harmed in any way. They're trying to save us from misery, from disappointment, from embarrassment a lot of times. But I think the approach is wrong. Rather than prefacing by saying, listen, don't take this wrong. I love you. I support you. I just want you to think about what you're doing. And then again, they're going to switch over into that can't. Is it the right timing? Is there really a need to do this? How are you going to support? And I think the person who's looking to step out to take that leap of faith, they have to prepare themselves with answers. They have to be prepared to say, you know what? I've thought about it. Yes, I have a plan. I have a backup plan. And sometimes you have no plan at all. Sometimes it's just, this is right for me. And that's the plan. It's right for me.
And I think what is some of the people, our loved ones and friends who care about us sometimes, and others, certain people don't necessarily. Certain people just want to be right, have an ego trip again, tell everyone else how they're doing life wrong. But what we seem to forget around this is life being a sense of exploration. If we all got it right the first time, we would never have any adventure at all. And life would be a very different experience.
Yeah.
But so often it takes those experimenting. It takes trying. It's like, well, you're going to spend less time with your kids. Well, yes, kids are a priority, but you can have a parent who spends all their time with your kids who is angry and resentful. And that's a bad experience for the kids.
Absolutely.
Everyone is different. You can have a parent who spends, what grandma might say is terrible, a couple hours a day with the kids and have an outrageously good relationship with your children. Like, like nothing compares to that. So judging that the way you think something should be done or the way you did something in the past and forcing that onto someone else is a very unrealistic expectation, and also is just your way of trying to keep them small. We think, oh, I'm just trying to be right because I'm trying to keep them safe.
Mm-hmm.
But unfortunately, it's also, oh, I'm really just trying to be right because if they don't stay small, I look like more of a failure because I never did any adventure in my life.
Exactly. There are some families where certain individuals sort of like they're pigeonholed, right? And there's this little pecking order. And if you become, let's say the highest level of education in the family is a bachelor's degree, right? And you're talking about going on getting a master's, or you're going to get a doctorate or a terminal degree, then that person feels like, well, wait a minute, I lose position, I lose status. So I'm going to sabotage what that person tries to do by planting seeds of doubt and get that person to give up on their dream. We've coached so many individuals that when we ask the question, what did you want to be when you were 10 years old, 20 years old? Why didn't you do it? 75% of the time, someone talked them out of it.
Mm-hmm.
Someone said, be realistic. Well, I want to be an artist. They don't make any money. You're going to be a starving artist.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you're right. So they go and major in something and work 20 years in the field they absolutely hate. Got a good friend of mine named Lori. All right. Went to college together, got our masters together and everything, right? She worked in the field she hated. She wanted to be a teacher. In her 40s, she made a decision to go back and do what she wanted to do when she was 12 years old. And now she's a very successful educator. And I asked her, I saw her a couple of months ago. I said, listen, how does it feel? You gave up this great career. She was like, yeah, it was great in name, but it wasn't great for me because I wasn't living out my purpose. My purpose, Lyman, has been in the classroom with those kids.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I'll play devil's advocate, which I always love to do, which is everything that Lyman said. Yes. And sometimes we have to learn through taking the way less traveled by taking a side trip.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Because, for example, and I'm one of those people, I like to be really real with people. And I say, I had a dream of being an actress and I worked in Hollywood as an actress for 10 years. Well, in many ways, I was a starving artist during that time. And I also made some incredible projects. And I also changed my life, how I see life, how I experience life, how I exercise my creativity. And when I decided to move on from that career, I was ready, but not at all resentful in the sense that even though someone might have said, your chances of doing this is like 1 in 5 million because it's the most overstocked market in the world, actors, right? In the world, the most overstocked industry. So your chances are like, if you do a spreadsheet on this, it's not even, there's just no way. But I still did it because it fulfilled something for me. Now, just because I didn't make it famous, like the top, 0.001%, or because I, didn't make as much money as I'd hoped, doesn't even mean it was a waste of time. So if I'd listened to the naysayers who said, oh, don't do that, that's like the last thing in the world, don't do it, I needed to do it. It made me a better person. I learned so much about myself, and I'm still fine. I still had a roof over my head. I still had food to eat. I was always, being smart, which is a big part of your strategic planning. So what I tell people about in strategic, you'll recognize this, of course, Lyman, because we do this, but when you're in a strategic planning around your life, and then we're going to have to wrap up in a minute or two, in strategic planning around your life, in going meta, in making decisions, I always teach the triple bypass. You've probably heard me say that before. And that is really what it means. So today, which is working from instinct. Instinct is there's so many levels of instinct. We're not going to go into that right now because sometimes our first impressions or first reactions are not really the instinct we're talking about. We're talking about meta instincts. So going much deeper, right? So and I'll give you just a tiny taste today and we'll talk about it again another time. So my triple bypass is when you're going to go into meditation, Sit still for a moment. Say, I really need to make this big decision about job, money, family. Bypass the mind. We do this in our workshops. Make a conscious decision. I'm going to bypass the rationalizing, the voices that say yes, no, maybe, why, can't, can. Bypass the mind. Then you got to bypass the heart, because sometimes there's people living there that we do care about, but that are the naysayers, and maybe their best, what they think isn't really in our best organic inner interest. And then you have to bypass the one more thing. That's why it's triple, and it's the ego. How you look to people, how you appear. If you look like you're diving out of a spectacular career, like in Lyman's early story, into something completely different, whether it's the lawyer becoming the hairdresser or the hairdresser becoming the lawyer.
Absolutely.
But if that move is right for you, you have to bypass your ego and those people's opinions. Then you get to the gut, the inner instinct, the spiritual aspect, whatever you want to, your deepest part. When you do that triple bypass, and then you ask yourself the question, 99.9% of the time, you will absolutely know the answer. So I dare you to give it a try before you come see us on our next episode. And I encourage you to send us your ideas, your thoughts on that. Let us know how it went for you. Shoot us an email, info@focusedmetamindset.com, or leave comments here on the platform that you are viewing or listening on today. And before I come back to Lyman for the final word, once again, please do like and subscribe to this show. We are so excited to bring it to you and just spread this good time of honest talk with the world and with people you know. Please share the show. Tell people who you think would enjoy it. And Lyman, back to you. What are your last thoughts?
Yeah, my last thought is a simple question. Are you truly satisfied, or have you just settled? Are you truly satisfied with your life, or did you just settle for it?
I love that.
Think about it.
Wow. So okay, my mind's just going, there's a whole nother half hour in there. So for next time, thank you all for joining us today. And we're so excited to have you here. See you on our next show. Bye-bye.
Take care. Go Meta.